Yeah, hey guys, this is Benjamin Schnau here at the NexGen Banking Summit 2024 in London. And with me now is Mark Whale, Key Account Manager at FICO. Thank you so much, Mark, for
Thanks
making it
very
happen.
much for having us
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I have a couple of questions I want to ask you, so we go right into it.
Awesome.
Right. So because you have a great presentation already today, so I really loved it. So we definitely wanted to go a little bit more into detail. And the first question I have for you is AI and fraud detection. How is FICO leveraging AI to enhance fraud detection in banking, and what innovations can we expect in the near future?
Yeah, well, I know you know about FICO yourself. I know
Yes.
from the credit score and
yeah.
history over in the US.
Very much so.
We've very much got a long pedigree in the fraud domain as well. So particularly from an AI and machine learning perspective, going back to the early 90s, we introduced neural networks into fraud detection. By the mid 90s, we'd introduced explainability. And then by the 2000s, we'd really annoyed fraudsters and decreased fraud rates on credit cards by 60%.
Wow.
So, fantastic. You step forward 100 specific fraud AI patents that we have in the market today, and we're now looking after 2/3 of the world's payment cards and 180 trillion transactions in the fraud space.
Ooh, that's quite something.
There's quite an amount there.
Yeah.
So, that's the historical stuff. But,
Yeah.
what we've been doing since, well, every time you take a step forward, the fraudsters
Sure.
do as well, right? They like to change their modus operandi, and
So you constantly have improved to be like reactive, obviously.
that's it. Yeah, better detection, better
Yeah.
prevention, and as we've heard from some of the panelists today, talking about app fraud and scams, and that's very much got a different dimension to traditional fraud.
Right.
You're now having to build different models that look for characteristics where it is actually the customer that's making payment. And you have to then detect those dimensions about them being socially engineered. So we've used the power of our consortium models, over 10,000 banks contributing to this model to go and create different scores that go and identify scams. So, huge amounts of work we've been doing in this space and protecting customers.
Yeah, I mean, I love you guys, to be honest, right? As you mentioned, like FICO score is something I'm checking every week, basically, to be honest, on my account in the US. So thank you so much for providing that, though. That's actually great. But thanks so much for answering. The next question is about customer experience. In what ways does FICO's technology improve customer experience in banking services, particularly in areas like loan approval and account management?
Yeah, I like that as a question because it brings up sort of a secondary question as well, right? So traditionally banks have looked at things in terms of individual silos, whether it's account opening, customer servicing, fraud, collections, different domain areas. But there's actually a lot of power in unlocking those silos and not doing things just in their individual areas. So I quite like to use the systems thinking analogy where if you go and ask an engineer a series of the world's best engineers to go and build a car, they might go and pick, a Rolls-Royce engine, a Ferrari body kit,
of course,
Tesla power source, etc.
Yeah.
But if by somehow you manage to put those things together, you don't end up with a working car or a high-performing car, at least.
Very good
Out of that. So you have the kind of the same sort of paradigm within banking as well.
Yeah.
These things that are impacting one area do have a very powerful impact on another area. So we've had panelists today talking about fraud and the power of fraud. And we know from FICO research that if you, like from UK customers, 73% of customers say that fraud capabilities and how well protected they are one of their major reasons for selecting a bank in the first place.
I can see that immediately. I would feel the same way.
So you need good fraud protections, but then 1 in 5 people say that if those fraud protections are too onerous, they're either not going to go with that bank or they're going to leave the bank.
That's right.
And then of course, if the fraud protections aren't strong enough, you'll end up with fraud or arrears book. So all of these things need to work together. And so one of the things that we've done within FICO is we've had lots of technologies that have traditionally served for each of those domain areas. We've taken the IP out of those areas, and as Sven talked to earlier, and we've put them into FICO platforms. So our clients now have a composable set of capabilities that they can go and build decision services across the business, really use the power of AI and machine learning across the entire enterprise and reuse assets. So they can go and build things a lot faster now. Be more agile to business needs.
I really like that because you basically put yourself into your customer's shoes, really identify. That's what I would feel as well as being my own customer, let's say. Right?
That's it. Yeah, that's my entire job.
No, I love it. I love it.
Speak
that's
to clients,
all it is.
see what it is that they need, what we can solve for. provide thought leadership and some amazing technology to solve those
100%. I mean, we talked about building trust, and I think that's all it needs, to be honest. You want to build trust with people, right? It starts with people. It's a people business. Any industry is basically people business, if you like, right? So I appreciate that. So talk about future trends now. So what emerging trends in AI and analytics do you foresee having the biggest impact on the banking industry over the next few years?
Okay, so I think there are a couple of areas that I'd like to touch on. There's been a huge amount about Gen AI and large language models today, and even on the last panel touching on small language models. There's going to be an evolution of that, and you're going to see some of that from FICO as well in terms of focus language models, where those language models are for a specific purpose, using data inside the information, so you don't have some of those same risk as LLMs, but also having them underpinned by trust scores. So I think we're going to see a shift in organizations using FLNs rather than LLMs. But the biggest thing for me, and this is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for the banking industry, and something that's massively underused, is AI-powered optimization. Like individual banks just in the UK could generate hundreds of millions in incremental profit by using that capability.
What do you mean exactly by that?
So this is a capability. So it's moving from predictive analytics into prescriptive analytics, and it's adding the dimension of constraints-based decisioning in there as well. So banks will have constraints in terms of what they're able to do with policy. The amount of capital they have available, the amount of resource that they can go and deploy in certain areas, and building those constraints into the overall process. I liken it to, if you want to go and you're going to head off on a journey somewhere, the old way, like the predictive analytics, is like using a map and paper, right?
Yes.
If the roads are clear, you can predict how long it's going to take to get there. Whereas, adding this additional dimension of constraints is like using a satellite navigation system where you can see if there are roadworks or traffic jams, etc. On your journey, and you can better plan and react according to those constraints that you have in the business. So this is what banks are using. We have great examples of banks doing this, increasing profitability, being able to look at multitudes of scenarios of different constraints and different goals across the business. But I can see this capability really exploding over the coming years and generating a lot more benefit for banks and their customers.
And I could feel you're quite technical too, right? I was like, okay, that's awesome. I think it's good to have like a basic understanding of the technical things, right? I got two more. One very quick: partnerships and collaboration. So the question is, can you share examples of successful partnerships FICO has formed with banks to drive innovation in financial services?
There are loads. Right?
I can imagine.
Just in the fraud space, we're working with over 10,000 banks. I feel a little bit unfair picking out a few, but I will. Right. So we have our own awards, FICO Decision Awards. People can see that on FICO.com. So I'll just share a couple of those.
Please.
HSBC, who I work with directly in the UK, they used AI-powered optimization on their credit card book to look at how they could increase spend and not create any more adverse outcomes. They increased spend by 15% on those customers that they were providing additional offers to. And they were able to work across a whole multitude of scenarios as to what were going to be the best outcomes for the customers and the banks. I talked a bit about the removing the siloed approach as well. So great examples in the UK: Nationwide Building Society and Lloyds Banking Group. They both put out videos about how they're working with FICO, removing silos, how they've got increased agility by using the platform to go and then deploy their analytics and their decisions across the business. So, increasing that speed of transformation has been massive for those two.
I mean, great examples. I mean, everybody knows those fans.
They do,
hundreds of thousands of customers. So I appreciate that. And last question, last but not least, event related. So how did you feel about attending the NexGen Banking Summit today? We're still on it, right? We're still doing it right now?
We are, and we're really
Exactly. But what was the highlight of the event so far, obviously? And do you look forward to attending next year?
Yes, I'm sure I will be here as well.
Yes, we did it.
I have to speak to the marketing team about providing budget for this.
Sure.
I always enjoy hearing from other professionals in the industry about some of their use cases, and certainly when they're from further afield, we had Bank of China on earlier, talking about their use
That
of
was impressive too.
AI and what it means to them,
Yeah.
you know, and where they are in terms of using large language models. So I really enjoyed that. You know, I thought Sven from our team did a great job earlier on hyper-personalization. Unfortunately, I missed one of the sessions earlier in the day. So
yeah, you're still here.
But there's plenty more I'm looking forward to.
For sure. Nice. Mark, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy man, but thank you so much for being here. This was Mark Whale, Key Account Manager at FICO. Thanks for answering our questions, and I'll see you in a minute. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye. Thanks.